podcast. Uh, we are talking about playoffs, reviewing the Wildcard Round and previewing the Divisional Round. Before we do that, we have the last couple of weeks have had an NBA minute. Today, I think we're going to have two NBA minutes because we have two NBA topics to talk about real quick. The first one is a little bit more serious than the other. The Golden State Warriors assistant coach Dejan Milojevic had a heart attack at a team dinner, I believe, last night, and he passed away this morning at the hospital in Salt Lake City, where they were in town to play the Jazz. That game has been postponed because of the obvious tragedy there, but just wanted to mention that we know that that's going on, and this is not a normal thing. Obviously, you don't have a staff member or a player die in the middle of a season. These are healthy individuals for the most part, and so really tragic event. Does anyone want to mention or talk about this?
Other than condolences to the families involved, and other than that, I wouldn't want to really throw anything in there. But wish the families the best in a time like that.
Yeah, doing some reading and research on him. He won championship with the Warriors in 2022, obviously, and he's one of the few assistant coaches that was never associated with the NBA prior to being a coach. He played his entire playing career in Europe and was a league MVP in the ABA Europe League 3 times, a 3-time MVP in the ABA Europe League. And so this was not only an extremely talented basketball player, but somebody had a huge impact on the game of basketball over in Europe, and was obviously brought over to the NBA to be part of the Warriors organization as somebody who's an absolutely fantastic basketball player in a mind. And watching some interviews, the Warriors players spoke very highly of all the things that they've learned from him. And so this is obviously a tragedy for the Warriors and the entire global basketball family, and so hopefully can start to move forward, and process this in a healthy way.
Yeah, I think the only thing I want to add is obviously it's the right decision to postpone this game, and as unfortunate and as much of a tragedy it is. I think things like this, or also the thing with DeMar Hamlin last year, Kobe Bryant, that 5 years ago now, 6 years ago, something like that. Things like that. It helps us remind us that these are games. Okay, this is just a game that people play. It's for entertainment, but these are people's lives. So it's definitely the right decision to postpone it. We don't want to put any disrespect. We want to give the people time to kind of process this kind of thing. So as tragic and as fortunate it is, it kind of helps us remember, like, hey, this is just a game. Let's put it away for a moment. Let's just be humans for a bit.
Yeah.
Well spoken.
Well said. Yep. It feels weird moving on from that so quickly, but here we go. The other NBA event, news that we saw today, the NBA is getting closer to the trade deadline, and so we're going to start to see a lot of trades happening, and a big one happened today. The Indiana Pacers traded for Toronto Raptors star Pascal Siakam, and a bunch of other pieces and draft picks and things like that. The New Orleans Pelicans were involved as well in a 3-team trade, but the big piece is obviously Pascal Siakam, who's an All-NBA player, All-Star, moving on to the Pacers, who have surprised at least Dustin and Cody and I, who did not expect them to be as good as they are this year. We're back in our NBA preview. And so this is a move to even get them further in that Eastern Conference standings. So that's something to watch going forward. Anyone want to comment about Pascal Siakam, the Pacers?
Yeah, I'm excited. I thought that Pacers got an absolute steal. I mean, what they had to give up with Bruce Brown and some other things like that in order to get Siakam, who's an all-star. They did give up 3 first-round picks over the next few years, right, which is big, but they know the position that they're in to make a really deep playoff run. And I think that they're selling it out for it. And I think that they could absolutely be, they have to go up against the Celtics and the Sixers in the playoffs, but this is a team that's ready to do it. So I'm excited, especially when Tyrese Halliburton comes back from injury in the next week or two.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anyone else want to comment on that?
I don't think I would have anything intelligent enough to share about this, other than it's obvious a big star, and he'll add a lot to the team. But other than that, I think you guys are the experts there.
I'd have to echo kind of Cody's thoughts on that. I haven't kept up enough with basketball to really be like, wow, that's a big deal. That's not a big deal. So
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The thing about with the Pacers is with Halliburton being out for the past couple weeks, he had a grade 1 hamstring. Their backup has been TJ McConnell, who's a 10-year veteran who's been a starter in the league before and has really helped keep the Pacers afloat. Whenever your all-star player goes down, it can usually hurt the team, but the Pacers haven't been hurt all that bad because of McConnell's leadership behind him.
Yeah. But it's still a big talent gap between those two players. So, yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So we're going to move on to Dustin's memory. Dustin, you want to introduce this moment, this game?
Yeah. So with us being in the midst of NFL playoffs, and especially with this last weekend being cold and snowy for most of the games, and the ever-present impact of officiating, I thought I'd look at the memory of it was the 2002 divisional game between the Patriots and the Raiders, now known as the Tuck Rule game, and specifically talking about that play. What it is, of course, this is snow covered. It's a low scoring game. It's 13-10. Raiders are up by 3 with a minute and a half left in the game, and the Patriots are down near the 30-yard line, and Tom Brady is in the pocket, and they send Charles Woodson on a corner blitz, and he gets to Brady, and Brady pumps the ball right as Woodson hits him and knocks the ball out, or so it looks like, and it's called a fumble on the field. Raiders get it and essentially end the game, and it goes to review, and the official determines that Brady's hand was moving forward when he lost possession and is therefore an incomplete pass. Which, moving forward in that he's taking it from here to his chest in order to tuck it, in order to reload his arm for another throw. Anyway, Patriots kick a field goal, tie the game, send it in overtime, and then kick a field goal to win the game. Head on, beat the Steelers in the championship game, and then head to the Super Bowl and win another ring. This was a game that their first ring.
Mm-hmm. So
this was a game and a ruling that helped set up a dynasty that we don't know what this is a history changing moment, and not only in a terrible ruling, in my opinion, and that was most definitely a fumble. But an interesting moment to look back in history. So get your thoughts on this.
Yeah, I'll go first on this one. But so first of all, let me make clear that the rule was called like that was a correctly called play according to the rule of the time. The Tuck Rule was initiated in 1999, I think, and it actually hurt the Patriots earlier in the same season, when they lost to the New York Jets, and Vinny Testaverde of the Jets had his arm going forward as well, just very similar to that, and they called it a fumble, and then they reversed it because of the Tuck Rule, and the Jets won that game, and so it came back to help the Patriots in a much more important game, obviously, but according to the rule of the time, that was a correct call. It was a horrible rule. that was the rule, and actually that was the rule until I think it was repealed in 2013, and so it lasted for another 12 years in the NFL rule book until it was finally said, okay, this is a dumb rule, it shouldn't, and so they got rid of it. But obviously, horrible rule at the time that caused all that to happen. The Raiders would have won that game. This is Tom Brady. He was a backup playing for Drew Bledsoe, who was injured for the year, and Tom Brady became who he was that year, leading the Patriots to the playoffs, winning that game, winning the Super Bowl, the first of 7 for Tom Brady, 6 for the Patriots, and so huge dynasty creating play. And I just want to mention, based on the weather that we had this weekend, the fact that Adam Vinatieri could make 4 field goals in that weather is insane. So you got to give credit to Adam Vinatieri. So yeah, that's my thought. Good memory.
I have to agree. I thought it was a terrible call. I didn't know that was like the actual rule, if I'm being honest with you. I thought that was kind of so during the time I remember thinking like they made that up for the Patriots on the spot. Like that's but I was young when that game happened, but I was like, Tom Brady and them making up rules for Belichick. But I knowing that was the rule and that was the correct call, when I was watching it in preparation for this, I still thought like that's a fumble to me. Like just
today is.
Yeah, my football mind was like that's a fumble. I would have tried to jump on top of that if I was playing defense in that game. And it was a good game at the end, but it did take it getting to the end to make it a good game. Being that there was only 13 points, 26 total between the two teams by the end of regulation. There were a lot of turnovers in that game. It was back and forth. But with weather, the way they were, I mean, you needed to shovel to get your car out of the parking lot. So to play football in that is impressive. Everything's a high step. If you're trying to go to sit on the bench, so you're going to need to high step. So it does make it impressive that you're going to be able to play at all in that. And like you said, kicking field goals is not an easy task, but Vinatieri was a machine. That guy was something different. That guy was just different.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, I've tried kicking a field goal when it's 80 degrees outside, and I still can't do it then. So there's no way I'm doing it in the snow. I guess the only thing I want to add to it is something I think you had mentioned, Dustin. What if they had ruled it a fumble? What if they ruled it the right way? It should have been. Would we still have seen the dynasty of Tom Brady and the Patriots? We don't know, and that's just a what if. We'll never know. My thought is Tom Brady is the GOAT, right? He probably would have found a way to have done it, but that was a defining moment for him. So I think that's one reason why he became kind of that GOAT. So it makes you wonder, take that away, Raiders win the game, what happens? I think that's really the only thing I want to add to it. But I guess one thing you were saying, Yancey, about shoveling out the snow in the driveway and stuff, makes me think of how the Steelers and the Bills had to shovel their own seats out this weekend. So I think this would be a topic for another time, but that's a stadium that needs to have a dome, in my opinion. So, but anyway.
We'll get to that in a second, but I disagree hard. So
me too.
Yeah. Okay, where is my share screen? Okay. Do you see my screen? Back to the screen that you see familiar with?
Yes.
Browns
Texans. So what we're going to do is just briefly recap this game. We don't need to spend a whole lot of time, but just review this game. And I'm going to skip ahead to this slide because we get the final score here. Texans won 45-14 in what was not close at all. It was close for the first quarter and a half, and CJ Stroud played his mind out, and Joe Flacco melted down. He had a big meltdown there, and two pick sixes, game is over at that point. So I have the boxes here. If you have a box, you got the game right. If you have a blue box, you got the score closest. 7 points is not 39 here, or 29, whatever that is, but it's better than 3, and that's why you get the blue box. So anyway, Cody and Dustin both guessed the Browns. Yancey and I both had the correct one. So let's go in order the way that we called this game at the beginning. So Cody, just like a minute of thoughts is all I'm asking for here. Not long.
A minute on this, that's almost impossible, but I'll do my best. I'm going to say, wow, CJ Stroud. That's what I want to say. CJ Stroud looks absolutely amazing. As good as, I mean, he's probably going to win Offensive Rookie of the Year. I mean, he has every reason to win it. Just wow, I was absolutely just jaw-dropping, impressed. This is against the league's best defense as well, by the way, and they were able to drop 45 points on them. There's nothing else I can say. I saw it happen, and my first thought at the end of the game was, this Texans team might go to the Super Bowl the way they played that game. So that would be pretty cool.
Yeah, Dustin.
Offensive Rookie of the Year, Cody. I mean, CJ Stroud has been playing as like a top 5 quarterback in the league. If he doesn't win Offensive Rookie, they're gonna lynch Roger Goodell. I mean, that's the way. I mean, maybe people will lynch him anyway, but my thought is to the Texans defense was absolutely incredible. Obviously, the 2 pick sixes and just their coverage. They really took a veteran in Flacco and just messed him up. He didn't know what to do with the ball. And so it was really impressive from a defensive point. And obviously 45 points on the offense. It was actually 31 points from the offense, right? Yeah. Still would have won the game easily, but 14 points from the defense is incredible in any situation, but a playoff game especially.
Yeah. I echo what both of you said. The only other thing I'll throw in is the offensive game plan by Bobby Slowick was fantastic for the Texans. They broke down the NFL's best defense. And the Texans had no answer to CJ Stroud. They had no answer to anything that Nico Collins did, and while doing all that, they also just made Myles Garrett not have an impact on the game either. Everyone was lined up. Like you could see Myles Garrett always had a double team against him. If it was a tight end chipping him, if it was a running back coming out of the backfield, if it was just 2 guys on him, they made sure that Myles Garrett was not going to have an impact on the game. He had no impact. He had like a tackle, no sacks, no pressures. He just pretty much a non-factor. And that led to the Texans having the offensive firepower that they did. And then the Browns led the NFL in turnovers. And so that happened in this game too. You're not going to win when you throw 2 pick sixes. It doesn't matter what you do.
Yeah, I got to agree. Flacco look old. I called it. That was the problem for them, among many other things. But when your quarterback is costing you possessions, and he's the guy meant to be in charge of getting that ball into the end zone, and kind of being the leader of the offense there. And he's having the breakdowns and really not getting any help from his line or anybody. On top of his defense getting walked on, it's tough because you're coming back on the field, because the Texans were firing on all cylinders, and when that's happening to you, it's tough to deal with, and that's what we saw happen to the Browns. They were just outperformed. Period. At almost every turn, it looked like, and they could not regain the momentum from losing the ball, and they were just outplayed.
Yep. Nice analysis. Moving on to the game and minus 27-degree wind chill in Kansas City. That was one thing that we didn't talk about in the preview about how cold it was going to be in Kansas City. It affected both teams. One more than the other. I mean, a team from Miami trying to play in cold Kansas City it was going to be a factor no matter what. And so 26-7 was the final score here. I was the only one that guessed Kansas City to win. And I was actually pretty close in the score too. 30-10 was what I guessed there. And so honestly, neither, before I get there, so go over you, Dustin, for analysis. 1 minute or so.
Yeah, I wish that I had remembered how cold it was going to be. That would have changed my analysis. It definitely would have lowered my final score and thought about changing the team I was going to win. But regardless of that, Kansas City looked like the old Kansas City of 1, 2, 3 years ago. They were just, their offense was just really well, was a really well-oiled machine. They did really good. And the Dolphins, exactly the opposite. Dolphins did not look at all like they have all season. They were slow and sluggish and didn't know what to do. You can blame the cold on that, but one team was able to execute despite the cold. The other one was not. And so I was really impressed with the Chiefs, and it gives me hope for another Chiefs playoff run and Super Bowl.
Yeah. I will push back on one thing you just said, Dustin. I think the Dolphins look pretty similar to the way they've looked all season. And one thing, they just don't beat good teams. They do not beat good teams. They haven't all year. They beat up on bad teams and they lose to good ones, and that's what I that's part of what I figured was going to happen this game too. Another thing, just that cold. We've all played in the snow. We've all played in the cold. Throwing and catching a football in the cold is like trying to throw and catch an ice block. It's tough. It hurts to catch, and but the Dolphins' offense is all based on rhythm, and if you knock out that rhythm, and the cold obviously helped, but the Chiefs' defense really shut them down too. You knock out that rhythm, the Dolphins had absolutely no answer. They couldn't do anything on offense. They looked horrible, and the Chiefs looked really good on both sides of the ball, given the weather kind of hurt some things too. Yancy.
We skipped Cody.
Cody, sorry. No,
No,
wait, no.
You're
You're up,
Yancy.
Yancy.
Yancy
Yeah, you're up,
first.
Yancy.
Oh, okay. All right. Really, I expected Mahomes to not play nearly as well as he did. And the defense for the Chiefs just was impressive to me. They showed up, they played very well. I have to agree with you guys that the weather did have an effect on that game, certainly, but not to the extent that I expected it to affect both teams. I probably should have saw that coming a little more. Like Dustin was saying with Miami, that affecting them. But yeah, well played game by the Chiefs. They just outplayed them in both sides of the ball. They showed up and they were ready, and they were really able to shut the Dolphins down quite well.
Yeah, I remember a thought I had. I don't know if I shared this or not, but a thought I had was it depends which Dolphins team shows up because we had seen both all season long, but I expected the good Dolphins to show up, and I was wrong. Again, same thing as you guys. Didn't think about the weather, but once I found out about the weather, I'm like, well, obviously it's going to affect Miami more than Kansas City. I think I was looking at the weather in Miami. It was 66 degrees when they were playing in Kansas City, and so that's what the kind of weather they had left. And good job for the Chiefs. They could catch the ball. And they were catching the ball, and they were doing great. Rashee Rice was the one. They didn't even – I'm not even sure if Tony played at all. But what you had said, Scott, it's true. It's kind of like catching an ice block. It's really impressive because Mahomes is still chucking that thing – so fast and so hard, and you can still catch it. And I see them hit each other in the snow, and I'm hurting, thinking about how much it hurts when you get hit in the snow and in the cold. So it didn't look like a fun game to be at. It didn't look like a fun game to play, but the Chiefs did well, and they pulled it out, and Taylor Swift was there. So there you
Cody.
Well, she was there, yeah, but she was in a press box at like
she
80
was, yeah.
degrees. So yeah. But, okay.
If
this
I
game
give you
was
$1 million tomorrow, are you gonna sit in a regular seat or are you going to the press box? Come on, bro.
right.
Yeah.
Come on.
Okay, this game was moved to Monday because of the weather, from Sunday to Monday. But Steelers Bills, we all guessed the Bills. We were all right. Cody was close, really close on that score. Look at that. 31-21 he guessed. It was 31-17. This seemed like a game where the Bills couldn't ever quite put the Steelers all the way away, but it was pretty clear that the Bills were going to win the game from the beginning, but they just could never put them all the way away. I think it's my turn to give my analysis first. So the Steelers, they've just never looked like a good team all year long, but they got to the playoffs and they just look the same as they always had, really. Playoff Josh Allen showed up. That run that he had, the 54-yard run, was insane. It was so impressive. He turned on the burners. He ran through everybody. I mean, again, you're talking about a guy that's the size of a defensive end, and so you have a little cornerback trying to tackle him. It's like it ain't happening. He's running right through you. And so Josh Allen, we're going to get to the Chiefs versus the Bills, but this is turning into a Peyton Manning versus Tom Brady 2.0 on this. So it was good. Yancey, you're up.
Yeah, I think so. The game went kind of how I expected it to. I think the Steelers scored a little bit more than I expected to. Same with the Bills, but it was kind of what I expected to see. I feel like the Bills have a lot of talent on their team, and when Josh Allen is playing well, it's going to be hard to stop them. If they're clicking on all cylinders when it comes to the offense and their defense is backing them up, it's going to be hard to slow the Bills down. But they do look shaky sometimes, so we'll have to see what happens. But I think that game kind of went how we all saw it playing out, honestly.
Yeah. The first thing I wonder how different it would have been had TJ Watt been playing. You know, he's one of the best defensive players in the league. He was out, obviously. I think he tore his ACL or something like that, MCL.
He just sprained his meniscus.
Okay, thank you. So it was one of those ligaments. He did something to it. I knew that. In the end, I think even having him in the game, Bill still would have won. They just looked great. They looked like the team we'd seen. What was it in 2020 when they made it to the AFC Championship against the Chiefs? Then they were looking good, and I think the Chiefs are going to have their hands full next week or this coming week. So
yeah, I have a little bit of a different opinion in that the Bills had a fantastic first quarter, right? They scored 2 touchdowns there in the first quarter. And then the rest of the game, these two teams were even. It was 17-17 the rest of the game. It was just that first quarter where the Bills were hyped up, amped up, and the Steelers were not ready. Mentioned Josh Allen's run. His signature move is the fake slide. He'll slow down and then just keep going because we've trained defenders to let the quarterback slide, and Josh Allen takes advantage of that with a little hesitation move, which I just hate that the slide exists and that Josh Allen can take advantage of it. But anyway, beside the point. Extremely impressive first quarter there, and I'm excited for the matchup.
Yeah. Okay. Oh boy. Packers and Cowboys. No one expected a 48-32 Packers win. This. If you didn't watch the game, that final score looks closer than it was. It was complete Packer domination. So Yancey, you're first up.
Yeah, I didn't expect. Is it Love, right, for the Packers? I did not expect him to come out playing as well as he did, and also I think I expected the Cowboys to just play better or show up, and they really didn't show up in the way that I was really thinking they were going to. And the Packers looked really good. They looked way better than I expected to see from them. Putting up 48 points in the NFL isn't really easy. You don't see that every single week consistently unless you have like incredible offenses. And so that's something special for the playoffs. And hats off to them.
yeah, I agree with you. Yancey, I was just my jaw was open the whole time. You can ask my wife Pam. I was just like, oh my goodness, are you kidding me? This is crazy. how are they doing, like letting this happen? Because the Cowboys, I don't think did they ever lose once at home this season? I don't think they did.
They haven't
They
lost since the beginning of last season at home.
That's right. So I mean, they are good, but and I'm kind of mad at myself for this because I had called from the beginning of the year. I said if the Cowboys make it into the playoffs, they're going to choke because that's what they do. They're the choke'em Cowboys. I just thought it was going to be one round later. I thought it was going to be the divisional round where they choke, but I mean, the Packers have their number. They have for the last 10 years when it comes to, or 10 years, I think it is. 10 times they played. I mean, that they just have their number. And Jordan Love showed up, and I was super impressed. And it's just unfair that the Packers can develop QBs so well.
Yeah, Jordan Love led his team to score 6 touchdowns. That's like Yancey said, that's incredible, unheard of, and so an incredible game there. And then Cowboys choked as we've learned to expect over the last 25 years. But from one of the league's best offenses and best defenses to get absolutely ripped apart for the majority of that game was the hats off to the Packers, and especially to Jordan Love. He deserves the credit.
Yeah. Everyone has come to expect the Cowboys to choke in the playoffs, including the Cowboys. And that's what happened in this game. You could see it from the beginning. The Cowboys were playing so tense, so tight, and they're not just playing the Packers in this game. They're playing like 30 years of history of trying to get back to the NFC Championship game, and you could see it that way with the way that they were playing, just not connected. Even Greg Olson the commentator was saying, "What is going on? Like they're not on the same page," and so you could see it just hit the Cowboys differently. And that's part of what happened. I know I talked all about the bad for the Cowboys. Really great game for the Packers. Makes me nervous, I'll tell you that. And we'll get to that in a second. So, okay, game 5, the Rams and the Lions. This was the closest game of all 6 of them. The only one that was one possession, by the way. 24-23. 3 of us called this. Yancey, you're the lone left out here. And Cody, you were, again, the closest here. 3 points off there on that score. And we're back to you, Cody. So lead on.
That's right. Well, I'm a Lions fan in this playoffs right now. Lions and Texans, really. So I was cheering for the Lions in this game as if I was cheering for the Seahawks. So I was really happy they were able to pull out the win. And plus, I hate the Rams. So, but anyway, Puka Nacua has been fantastic all year long. I'm going to do the name drop for you there, Scott. And he if CJ Stroud didn't play the way he would, he would be the obvious choice for offensive rookie of the year. But he did great. I think he broke a record in every category or something like that. Broke another record in this game too. And you could say Matthew Stafford finally brought Detroit a playoff win, kind of, in one way or another. He didn't play bad or anything, but it was pretty even. It was good. It's a good game. I enjoyed it, and Dan Campbell is there to stay for as long as he wants.
Yeah, I loved watching the last couple minutes of that game when it was so tense in that stadium with that kind of that 4th down go for it that the Rams are going for, and the whole stadium was just ready to explode, and then it did whenever they didn't get that 4th down. And so that was a fun atmosphere to watch even from the couch. To know that how much the Lions wanted that and they were able to secure it.
Yeah, that was such a fun atmosphere. Like you said, even from the couch, you could feel it, how much those Lions fans wanted that game. And it seemed like it was going my way here, a big shootout from the first quarter, and then everyone stopped scoring. And then it just came down to the red zone. The Lions went 3 for 3 in the red zone. Rams went 1 for 4. And that's how this happens.
Yeah, that's rough. That's a consistency issue, and anytime when you're playing football, you're gonna, if you can't stay consistent, keep the ball, it's gonna be a problem. But overall, that was a much better game than I expected. I really thought LA was gonna do more, and in terms of offense. I was impressed with how good the Lions did look, and the defense being able to hold them off like that was incredible. and hats off to them. I think I saw something that said the last Madden that they were in the playoffs in was 1991, and then now, and they showed the difference in the graphics, and so how much time had elapsed since they were in the playoffs, and so that's great. Good for them that they've gotten to move forward and win a playoff game.
Yeah. Okay, the last one before we get to the previews. This game. Again, Yancey and I were the only ones to pick the Buccaneers to win this game. And Yancey, again, got the closest, although neither one of us was that close because it was a much more dominated effort by the Buccaneers. We're over you, Dustin, on this game.
Yeah, it was sad to see the Eagles, who had been such a great team until 5 or 6 games ago, when they just stopped trying. And I think they secured that. They stopped trying and just lost all chemistry. And then they tried to gain that chemistry back in week 18 and then got some injuries out of it. And it was just kind of bad season management by the coach leading up into this playoff game. And then they come in here and Baker Mayfield just packs their lunch for them and sends them home. Just says, "Here you go. See ya." And so I'm really impressed with Baker Mayfield. And just, I think we all mentioned in our text group that we expect Nick Sirianni to find a new job here pretty soon.
I'm not sure I quite agree with that. I don't know. He just led him to a Super Bowl a year ago, but we'll get to that in a second. But later. I mean, I want to mention one thing from both teams. Baker Mayfield played the best game of his entire career in this game. He was phenomenal in that game. The Eagles, they didn't adjust to anything. And I'm going to name drop for you, Cody, in a bad way, because Brian Johnson did not. Like the Buccaneers' total defense was to blitz the hell out of Jalen Hurts, and not once did Brian Johnson change anything he was trying to do. Like it was, they didn't bring anyone in. They didn't try to chip block. They didn't run the ball. They tried to throw the ball and pretty much left Jalen Hurts there to take hits and panic. And I don't know what happened, honestly, in the last 5 or 6 weeks, but the Eagles crumbled worse than any team I've in recent memory down the stretch.
Yeah, I have to agree that the Eagles have not looked the same. That's kind of why I went with the Buccaneers. I think playing down the injury to Jalen Hurts' hand was a mistake. Everybody was like, it's a sprain, it's this, it's that. I've seen broken fingers. That hand isn't right. You don't want that guy throwing the football for you. Someone needs to do something to make an adjustment. And I don't think they were able to do that. And how many people were injured on their roster for that game? Was it at least 4?
At least, yeah.
At least 4, right? And I think 2 of them were on IR. I could be wrong about that, but either way, they didn't show up like they needed to. That showed through in the score, and good job to the Buccaneers and to Baker Mayfield specifically. I have to agree with you guys on that. He showed up. He played a great game, and good football for the Buccaneers.
Yeah, I saw this graphic recently on social media. I'm sure you guys have all seen it as well, that Baker Mayfield's brought twice as many playoff wins to the Bucs, or something like that, and the Browns have in I don't remember how many years, in several years. And the one win that the Browns have was also with Baker Mayfield. And so that Baker Mayfield is, I think, people need to realize he's better than people are realizing. And as it's proven right here, he's back, if you want to say it. He played phenomenally. Eagles played horribly, and I'm disappointed for Jason Kelce. And, it's kind of a rough way to end his career. He retired. I'm sure he was hoping for one more good run. And it seemed like they had it for the whole season until what like you said, Dustin, 6 games ago. So kudos to the Bucs. They played really well. I want to say that the home field advantage had a pretty big deal for it as well. So we'll see how they do on the road this coming week.
Yeah. So here's the results. We chose our names here. The Gold Digger, Dustin, because you didn't get any of the scores either, and finished 2-4. And I was by far the winner here, the Gold Picker, if we want to say it that way. They both sound like we're picking noses, by the way. But anyway, so let's move on to the divisional round. The Texans against the Ravens. I'm going to go full screen here for a second. Texans versus Ravens. This will be a fun game. I'm going to go through this quicker than I did last night because of the shortage of time we have. But the Ravens have outscored their opponents by more than 10 points per game. They're just blowing out opponents. Almost every team they play, they blow out. You see their offense, number 4 in points, 6 in yards, 1 in rushing. They're the best defense in the NFL as far as points allowed, and they're number 1 in takeaways. They average nearly 2 per game taking the ball away. They are very good defense going against the Texans who don't turn the ball over. Number 1 in turnovers lost. So that's one thing to keep in mind. Which one is going to win there? Whoops. So looking when the Texans are on offense against, remember CJ Stroud had a great game, 16 of 21, 3 touchdown passes. They did not allow any sacks against the whoever they played. I already forgot. Browns. They're going against. So they played the best defense in the NFL in the Browns. They now play the number 2 defense in the NFL in the Ravens. So they're going to have to prove themselves going against this group here. Kyle Hamilton, Patrick Queen, Roquan Smith, all Pro Bowlers, and this group here. When the Ravens are on offense, Lamar Jackson, he's on both of these because he passes the ball and runs the ball with equal greatness. He's going to be the MVP this year. I think it's pretty clear he's going to win that award. But going against his defense, that was pretty good against Cleveland as well. They've lost their tight end Mark Andrews. Odell Beckham Jr. hasn't been the same guy, but these 2 guys have really stepped up: Zay Flowers and Isaiah Likely. So backing out of here, I think we're on to me because we're just going to keep going the rotation the way it is. So with this game, it's going to be fun to watch CJ Stroud adjust to this team. The Texans lost to the Ravens back in week 3. It wasn't close, but the Texans could be a better team in this game, I think, than they were back in week 3. It's still not going to matter though. As good as the Texans are, the Ravens are just better. And so sorry, Cody, to crush your dream. I don't know if you're going to do it yourself too, but the Ravens are winning this game, and it's not going to be particularly close either, unfortunately. This is a 31-14 game. Yancey.
All right. I think I actually disagree with you. After watching the last game, and watching how the Texans were able to perform, there's a fire under that team. And I don't know that I really saw that same fire out of Baltimore. They are good, but both of these teams match up really well as far as the statistics go. And I think that the young bull gets it done. I think the Texans are going to be able to pull this game out. I don't think it's going to be as high scoring as you do. I think it goes 28-14 actually, so close to your score, but not the same.
Cody.
All right. So I do think this is going to be a fun game to watch. We just saw the Texans obliterate the best defense in the league. But then again, this is the Ravens. This is Lamar Jackson. They obliterated who we thought were the best team in the 49ers a few years ago, or a few weeks ago. And so this is a good team, and I think they're both good teams. They're both doing great. Well, let me take you back in time for a moment. Think back with me. I think it was 2020. The Titans had the number 1 overall seed, and they were looking good. They were looking great. Derrick Henry, all that. Game 1, it seemed as if they just came in thinking like, oh, we got this. This is going to be a breeze, and they got beat. I'm going to say the same thing's going to happen here. They are thinking that this is going to be a little bit of breeze. It's the Texans. They got a good team, but hey, we're better. The Texans are going to come in storming, and they are going to come and lay some points on them. It's going to be close, but I'm going to call a Texans win 28-23.
Dustin?
I think that the thing that turns this game is C.J. Stroud, but the other way, in that whenever the Texans get down a few scores, just trying to get it all back, with one play, and just starting those rookie mistakes will start to happen. And so I'm gonna say that Baltimore is gonna be able to take a lead and then just pile that on with a few more mistakes. So Baltimore wins, and I'm gonna say 37-17.
Okay. We split 2-2 there. I think that's the first time we've done that. Okay, on to the most important game of the playoffs so far. The Packers against the 49ers. This takes you back as well. Remember, the Packers and Cowboys were a nostalgic factor. This is also a nostalgic factor. There's 9 previous playoff matchups between these two teams. San Francisco leads the series 5-4 in the postseason. Green Bay won the first 3. San Francisco has won the last 4 in the playoffs. The 49ers have had the Packers number in the playoffs for the last almost 10 years, really. The Green Bay last beat San Francisco in 2001 in the playoffs. So it's been more than 20 years since the Packers have beat the 49ers in the playoffs. Over here, 49ers have won 7 of their last 9, but they've also lost 2 of their last 3. One of those was a meaningless game against Los Angeles Rams. You don't really have to count that one, but 2 of their last 3, but they've won 7 of their last 9. This is a crazy stat. 49ers are 0-36 in games where they have trailed by 8 or more points in the fourth quarter since 2017, since Kyle Shanahan took over. Every other team has won at least one game in that span. You look at this stat, the 49ers are 70-16 in all other games. So that means if the 49ers get a lead, they win the game. That's just been the case. But if they're behind in the fourth quarter by 8 or more points, they have never won under Kyle Shanahan. They're the only team that has never won in that situation. So that's just a crazy stat to throw in there. 49ers number 3 in points, number 2 in yards. They're number 1 in yards after the catch. In the third straight year, they've been number 1 in that. That's the system that they're based out of, is get the ball to their receivers and let them go. 3 straight years being number 1 in yards after the catch is pretty impressive. Number 3 in points allowed, number 8 in yards allowed. This is what we're going against here. That secondary, Darnell Savage, Keyshawn Nixon, Devondre Campbell, against Brock Purdy, Brandon Ayuk, and George Kittle. Brock Purdy was top 5 in every passing category this year. 4th in completion percentage, 5th in yards, 3rd in touchdowns, 1st in quarterback rating, 113 quarterback rating, top 5 in every passing category. Ayuk and Kittle both over 1,000 yards receiving, 7 touchdowns, 6 touchdowns. And then when they go to the running game, when they have Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel plays both wide receiver and running back. McCaffrey, number 1 in everything for rushing, 2,023 total yards. He led the NFL in rushing yards. He had 21 total touchdowns, which was number 1 in the NFL as well. And then Samuel has 12 total touchdowns, both rushing and passing. The weapons are everywhere for the 49ers, but this Packers offense wanted to talk about as well. Jordan Love has had 21 touchdowns and 1 interception since November 19th. He is playing the best quarterback right now. You could say he's the best quarterback in the league since November 19th, because that's really been the case. Dobbs and Musgrave had 2 touchdowns against Dallas. Aaron Jones, 118 yards rushing. That's the 4th straight 100-yard game he's had, by the way. So going against this defense, Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, Charvarius Ward, they're all Pro Bowlers this year. And then Dre Greenlaw and Javon Hargrave. Javon Hargrave was signed in the offseason this year to help stop that run, and he's done a great job at that. So jumping in here, Yancey, start us off with this game.
Yeah, looking at that and just knowing the history of these two teams, I think I have to go with the 49ers here. And also just because of the weaponry that they have on offense and really defense. They're a good, solid team. And I might have them getting to the Super Bowl. I'm going to put them up. I think it's going to be a shootout, 42-35.
Okay, Cody.
Let's see here. So first off, I'm going to be one of the biggest cheeseheads in this game because I have to go against the 49ers here. But also, you're going to say that the 49ers have had Green Bay's number for the past few years. I feel like it's more like they've had Aaron Rodgers' number for the few years, but for sure they have, and this is going to be I think a game where the first half is really close. I think by halftime, it's probably going to be either tie game or 49ers up by maybe two or three or four, something like that. However, I do think the 49ers are going to pull away in the second half. Just mounting up the numbers are going to be stopping the pass and the run in the second half, and they're going to make the score look a lot more dominant than the first half looked. So I'm going to predict a score of 34-24.
Dustin?
I think that the Packers are going to be able to come out and play and start the game the same way they did against the Cowboys and put up some points scary fast that is going to really, really shake the 49ers for a little bit. But I think that the composure of the 49ers, they'll be able to come back and make it close in the fourth quarter. I'm going to go 49ers win in the last couple minutes, 26-23.
Get that broom out.
Yeah. There's no way I'm picking against the 49ers.
Yeah, I know.
So, yeah. Like I said, when we were talking about the recap for the last game, this game does concern me because the Packers are playing so well right now. But honestly, this game could be difficult for the Packers. And the reason is that defense is just so good in San Francisco. And they're really good at linebacker, which is particularly going to be concerning for the running game for the Packers and force Jordan Love to throw. I think Jordan Love will play well. I don't expect many interceptions. But the 49ers are just better in all phases of the team than the Packers. But I really do think it's going to be closer than any 49ers fan wants it to be. I think it's going to be close all the way until the fourth quarter, where the 49ers will benefit from a turnover. And so they'll go up by 2 possessions, and I think at that point it'll be too much to overcome for the Packers. And so I'm picking a final score of 31-24, as the Packers will hit a field goal and then not be able to get the ball back. So, okay. On to the Buccaneers and the Lions. So let me make this full screen again here. The Lions are hosting multiple playoff games in the same season for the first time in franchise history. They've never hosted more than one playoff game in a season ever. So this is the second game in Detroit because Dallas lost. Detroit gets to host another one. And that stadium is going to be even more crazier than it was last week with the NFC Championship game on the line. We've already seen both of these teams. And so, again, we got to look at offense versus defense here. Buccaneers have a good defense. And over here, not necessarily a great defense in Detroit. Looking at these guys once again, Jared Goff played a great game. He only threw a touchdown, but 22 of 27. That's pretty good completion percentage there. St. Brown had over 100 yards receiving against this defense that was pretty good, especially Vita Vea. He proved that if anyone can stop the brotherly shove, it's this guy right here. Vita Vea shut that down. And so that against that running game will be fun to watch. When the Buccaneers are on offense, Aiden Hutchinson had 2 sacks by himself. He's been the only good player on the Detroit defense really for a lot of the season, but he can wreak havoc for that Buccaneers team, and so we'll see what can happen there. Mike Evans wasn't particularly good, but Cade Otton was, and so over here Rachaad White had a pretty good game. So did Alex Anzalone for the Lions, and so we've seen these teams play. This is the first game so far where we've seen both these teams already play because we don't have the number 1 seeds here. So over to Cody.
All right. Well, the Buccaneers were lucky to be able to get in the playoffs with winning their division, right? They were like 9-8, and they were able to get in. But we already talked about them. That Baker Mayfield shined, really, really shined last week. But they were also at home. They're now on the road, traveling to Detroit, a madhouse won their first playoff game in since 1991. Like you said, Scott, not national championship. That was also Michigan, but conference championship on the line here. I think that they're walking into a madhouse. I think Detroit has this win pretty easily. I think it will be a close first quarter, where at the end of the first quarter, it's going to be like a 13-10 kind of thing. Lions are just going to pull away. I think this is going to be something that they walk away. The Bucks walk away limping. I'm going to call a final score of Lions 37-17.
Okay, Dustin.
This is one that's kind of difficult to call. I think these are two well-matched teams. I think that the Lions are a good team, and the Bucks are probably better than their record, especially with the experience they put behind them last week. This is a hard one to call, but I think that the home field advantage and the passion there is going to help the Lions. But I think it's going to be a close one. I'm gonna call it a let's go 28-24.
Okay. I'm more along the lines of Cody in this one. The Buccaneers beat the Eagles, but right now the Eagles might be the worst team in the NFL at this point. They played really bad, and Mike Evans had 3 drops in that game. If the Buccaneers are going to beat the Lions, they have to play perfect, in my opinion, because the Lions are so efficient on offense. I think the Buccaneers can score points because I don't think the Lions' defense is very good, but I think the Lions will win this game, and one turnover from Baker Mayfield will turn into 3. Because that's kind of the player that Baker Mayfield is. He loses confidence quickly. When he's really good, when he's really confident, he's excellent. He's one of the better quarterbacks. But when he loses confidence, it spirals out of control. And I think that might be the case in this one. I'm picking a pretty big Lions victory as well. I'm going to pick a 34-10 final score.
Yeah, you can get the broom out again. I don't see Tampa Bay like I really agree with the thing that you said about like they beat the Eagles, like, and the Eagles are not playing like themselves. And so I don't think that that's the best indicator of like, well, look at how well the Buccaneers did. It was more of look at how terrible the Eagles are doing. And for that reason, I think that's why I agree with you guys. And I think Baker's going to be the problem. I think that he gives the ball up a couple times in interceptions that they just didn't need, and it's going to cause problems. I actually think I go 28-14 on this one.
Okay. All right, last game of the divisional round, and maybe if the 49ers is not the most important one, then this one is, because this is history as well, and it's current history, right? The Chiefs versus the Bills. This has become the new Patriots versus Colts, the new Tom Brady versus Peyton Manning. These two teams have played. This is the 5th playoff matchup between the two teams, and it's tied 2-2. Although the Buffalo one was back in the 90s, and so the Chiefs have won the last 2. And remember the crazy one that happened in, was it 21 divisional round that went into overtime, and I think the Chiefs scored with 12 seconds left in regulation to send it to overtime, or they had they had 12 seconds and then they scored, so and sent it to overtime. A crazy game. Anyway, 2 good offenses, 2 great defenses. This is a great matchup between 2 great teams. Also, it has to be mentioned, this is Patrick Mahomes' first ever road playoff game. He has never played a playoff game on the road until this point. And so that's crazy. The Super Bowl is not considered a road game. It's a neutral location, but this is the first time he's ever played a playoff game on the road. Before we get to Patrick Mahomes, though, Josh Allen, when he's good, Josh Allen, he's unstoppable. That's literally the case. That was the case last week. He was great. 203 yards, 3 touchdowns. He also ran 74 yards and another score. When he's good, Josh Allen, he's unstoppable, but he's also been bad Josh Allen much more than the Bills would like. But anyway, those two players can play in the same game, by the way, too. He can be both good and bad in the same game. So anyway, this offense going against his defense. Again, Patrick Mahomes has done everything. He's proven himself as one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, but he's never done this. He's never played a road playoff game until this point. So we'll see if it affects anything. It may not. Rashee Rice was fantastic in that game. Maybe they have a receiver finally who can help Travis Kelce along, because Rice was fantastic going against that defense. Ed Oliver, AJ Klein. The Bills are dropping like flies. They continue to drop like flies. Terrell Bernard, their middle linebacker, was knocked out of last game, and he's out for the rest of the year. So AJ Klein trying to take over. That's why I put him there. Okay, over to you, Dustin, to take us home.
Yeah, this is an exciting game. Like you said, it's current history. These teams matching up. I think with the Chiefs, the secret to winning is with the run game and Pacheco. Being able to get that going, being successful is how the Chiefs win that game. And then their defense being as good as it has been. And I think that's the secret. And I do think the Chiefs will get it again, shut down the Bills again, which will it's just that my heart hurts for the Bills, but I think it's going to be 3-0 in this decade. Let's go a very close game down to the fourth quarter. Chiefs win 31-30.
Okay. I also think it's going to be close. I'm not sure it's going to be quite as good as the 2020 game, but it's going to be in that same realm, that same universe. A little bit back and forth, but I think it's more defense back and forth in this one. This is going to be another freezing game in Buffalo, New York. And both teams are going to have to bring their A games. Both defenses are better than they've been in a long time, and I think it's going to show out. I think that it's going to be a game of adjustments. And I think that the way that both teams have been playing recently is going to come into play. The Chiefs have struggled all year, but they seem to be getting back in tune for the playoffs, and they're going to play a really good game, especially defensively and on the run game. I think the Bills' secret is also in their run game, both Josh Allen and James Cook. And I think the Bills make a final defensive stop on a final drive to shut Patrick Mahomes out from going down the field. And so I think the Bills win on the strength of an inconsistent Josh Allen performance, but a great defensive performance. And I'm calling a very low scoring game of 20-17.
Interesting. I think Josh Allen plays extremely well in this game. I think that Patrick Mahomes is affected by this being his first road game in the playoffs. It's a whole different energy that you get from a stadium when it's yours versus when it isn't. And so for that reason, I'm going to go with the Bills. I think it's also going to be a pretty close game. I think I give it to them 27-20. 27-21.
Okay. Cody.
All right. So I just have this feeling that that there's going to be a mountain of pressure on Josh Allen in this game. All of this history riding on him. All of this, all the talk he's been hearing in his ears echoing, he's an inconsistent quarterback. It's gonna drag him down. It's gonna make him unconfident a little bit in the first half. I think he's gonna throw a pick six in the first half. I think that at the end of the first half, Chiefs are gonna be up 14-0. But like you're saying, Scott, I think that the defenses are gonna show up, right? So I think the defenses are going to shut out Kansas City the rest of the second half. And Josh Allen's going to go on to a spree and win this game 21-14. So Bills 21-14.
Okay, Dustin, you're alone over there picking your team. But remember, I was alone picking the Chiefs last week. So,
Yep.
So these will be 4 really good games, or at least one. So we'll see what happens here this week. It'll be fun. Next week we'll talk about the review of these games and preview the conference championship games. Thanks everyone for staying on, and go football.
Football.
Go football.
Go sports.
Yeah. Okay. See ya.